This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. On the topic of internet security, let's talk about domain names. There are multiple parts to a domain name. There's your core bit. Let's say PLUGHITZ Live. That's your core bit. Then there's the part at the end, .com, for PLUGHITZ Live, right? That's your top level domain. Most people know about a couple of core ones, the ones that have been around since the beginning. .com, .org, .net, .edu, .gov. Those are your, I think those were the original five. Since then, the ICANN, I don't remember what ICANN stands for. The Internet Corporation name something, doesn't matter. They are in charge of what those top level domains are. They're also in charge of maintaining the full directory of domains that are out there. Since then, they have allowed all kinds of things. We've got country level, top level domains. Some of which are used for non-country specific things. We use f5live.tv, for example. TV is technically a national...
Tuvalu, isn't it?
Yeah, for the slowly sinking nation of Tuvalu. You've also got .fm, which is a pretty popular one, which is Federated Micronesia. But then you've got other ones since the national ones. You've got I/O, which literally is for input, output. You've got AI. You've got Live, which we use for a lot of ours, pilchpoint.live, right? So these things are pitched around all the time. We get new ones fairly frequently. Just recently we got 8 new ones. I will read them to you, and let's see if we can figure out which ones are going to become the problem. They are .dad, .esq, .foo, .mov, .nexus, .phd, .prof, and .zip. Now, if we were paying attention here, you recognized 2 of them immediately. .mov and .zip, common file extensions. For zip files and Apple QuickTime movies, both of which are used commonly in scams. So, these 2 domains almost certainly are going to be riddled with scam websites, because somebody's going to receive an email that says, click here, invoice dash 83792.zip. This is your invoice, and you're going to click on it, and it's going to take you to a website, and it's going to look like PayPal or whatever. People are going to put in their money, their information, and get hacked. Entirely because of these top level domains. I think these are terrible ideas, personally. As soon as I read the article from Google announcing these 8, I went, uh-oh. And then I went and looked, and most of the rest of the internet is concerned by these as well, mostly for the same reason. This seems like a great way to get less internet savvy people to click things that they shouldn't, Abram. What do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty dumb. I mean, why would you need that? Like, it's great, it's real fast, it's .zip. It's really moving, it's not move. No, like it can now granted it's always possible for someone to come out with a new file extension that becomes real popular. That you know, uh, come to think of it, back in the now most executables in Windows are exes, but wasn't there a time when there were
Yeah.
.com? There was com was a was the extension that you used for executables. I don't know what happened to that, but
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, it wasn't technically for executables. I think COM was closer to a batch file than it was to an executable.
uh,
Like, I don't think they were compiled. I don't remember exactly. It's been a very long time since COM has been
but
relevant. And for all we know, that might be why the original top level domains included .com, because they were, who knows? I wasn't there.
right. So what's weird to me though is we're like 30 years or something close to it into the web era, right? And yet most people expect things to end in .com. Like that's kind of expected. Even though there's so many top level
Yep.
domains, most if you get the domain, if you don't get the .com of your domain,
It doesn't
like
matter.
it's not helpful. So
We,
like
for example, we promote f5live.tv all the time. If you go to f5live.com, it behaves exactly the same way. Because I know
you gotta have it, right?
people aren't going
You
to type
gotta have it.
the .tv. I know that. So the .com does the exact same thing. Pilchpoint.com and pilchpoint.live are identical. Because they
Right.
have to
So
be, because people are going to type it.
right. So so like this raised an interesting question for me. I was thinking of registering a domain recently,
Mm-hmm.
just for the heck of it. Uh, I was thinking of registering a domain for setting up my own like search website, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, like
The
just to
one
make
we
a
talked
point,
about.
right? And what I found is the domain that I wanted is not available as a .com. Somebody has it; and they're using it as a landing page, and I wrote to them, but they didn't write me back. Uh, Presumably, it's one of those things where they just have thrown ads on it, of course, right?
A hijack
Um,
site.
is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so but it's not. I don't think I can get them to sell it, and if I could, I probably couldn't afford it. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
but the domain that I want here, I'll tell you, I would love to register the domain just search, right? Uh, and what I found is justsearch.com is taken, but justsir.ch is not.
Yeah.
Now, I thought about it, and to your point, like ch, by the way, is Switzerland, uh, is the Swiss TLT. Um, so I thought about it, and I'm like, if I registered that, would anybody go there if I told them? Because they would go to justsearch.com, and which is something else, right? Um, so like I don't know. So I guess this kind of begs the question of like, aside from fooling people into malware, how is having how like we still haven't managed to get to mentally train people to go to domains other than .com or
Yeah.
maybe .edu for schools,
.net if
or
you're
maybe
lucky.
.org. But normally, like if you don't have and if you have to have the .com domain, the other domain might as well not exist.
Yep. Yep. Oh, I see. This is literally a company called Landing Page.
Yes,
They own the domain landingpage.com. Good. I mean, good on them.
yes. So
Fascinating.
like I tried emailing them and I was like, hey, would you like to sell me your thing? But they haven't mailed me back. So who knows? Uh, uh,
if you're if
so,
you're really interested, GoDaddy might be able to broker just as a. But
but
they've
but
got
it's
this
probably
thing
a lot of
locked
money for
down.
something.
They're they've got it. They've got it through 2025.
Yeah, I'll probably remember. Anyway, so yeah, it's and anyway, I don't know if it's worth that much. I had this idea that considering that Google seems to be abandoning regular search, maybe we should have a maybe someone should create a search engine that's just search and call it just search.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Because
but you're absolutely right. You know, we we have a lot of domains around here. I'm not gonna lie. I collect them the way some people collect Funko Pops, and I apologize for that. Uh, but we own Follow the News, but it's .ws. Follow the news. Oh, the landing page just changed. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, we've never done anything with it. It was just an interesting domain to own. We used to, that used to be part of the tagline. I think for the upstream, follow the news as it happens on your phone, computer, or iPad, or tablet. That was what we used to say like a decade ago.
right.
So we registered the domain. Too many of the ones that I own are because of jokes. That was one of them, and the name of this show came about because of a joke. That's fine. Sometimes a good joke just sticks. But yeah, I could never use it. I could never use it for anything. It's too long to use for a URL shortener. It's not a .com, so nobody's going to ever type it. But we still keep getting these top level domains. Some of the exceptions, there are some exceptions. .io within the tech world has become an acceptable top level domain. I think about a quarter of the companies that were on our CES coverage this year had a website at .io, which is a pretty big percentage. Some of them also had the .coms, but many of them did not. So .io is becoming a little more common, but there's so many of them. And there's no way to know which ones are good and which ones are bad. There are some top level domains that are almost entirely bad. We've got an article from a couple of years ago, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years ago, where there was a study done on certain top level domains. For example, Google's .xyz, 95% scam stuff. The entire top level domain is essentially scams. .reviews, disappointingly, entirely scams. No,
Right. Right.
wouldn't that be a
Nobody.
great? I mean, that would be great. Webcam.reviews, and it could go to your reviews. But you can't
Right.
because nobody trusts it because everybody knows that one's entirely scams. Which brings you back
Right.
to you got to have the .com.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it also just shows how much money you have, right? Like if you're a wealthy enough business, you can afford to pay whatever squatter has the .com.
Yeah. When we created sumosoftware.com, there was a squatter on that one. Now we didn't have to pay a whole lot for it, but we had. So I'm involved in an organization that does an event called IRB Greenfest, and I registered for the organization years ago, irbgreenfest.com, and I handed them the domain as a present. Well, I found out, now that I'm involved again, I found out that they let it expire. There's a squatter on it. It's a full-on hijack site now, with, probably fake ads and the whole 9 yards. And they want 10 grand for us to get it back. This organization has not made 10 grand in its 15 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no way. And so we've got to go with something else. And it sucks because, if you go with .org, people are going to put in .com. They're going to end up on this hijack site. There's nothing I can do about that. And if we change the domain name too much, people won't know that it's us. So,
Yeah. Yeah. There ought to be a law. I think you can sue for that kind of thing, but it would probably cost more than $10,000 to sue.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Especially, yeah, especially under those conditions. But yeah, there's no good solution. I mean, we remember, I remember, most people had no idea the internet existed at this point. When the web was first getting going, Pepsi spent like $2 or $3 million, if I remember correctly, to buy Pepsi.com because somebody got there first. So, somebody spent $35 to register it with ICANN or register.com, which I think was the official registrar of ICANN at the time. They got there first. Whoops. And then Pepsi had to spend some tremendous amount of money at the time to buy it back. So it has happened literally since day one. Since the very beginning of public registrations of domains, that has happened. So it's not going away, but things like .zip and .mov not going to make things any better on the internet. Certainly not going to make them any safer. This is the URL equivalent of the injection we were talking about earlier with the AI injection. This is just the domain version of it. It's a terrible idea, and shame on ICANN for allowing it to happen. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.